Every house has some unfinished or underfinished space. With a game plan and some simple skills, you can transform that underused, unutilized space into that part of your home that everybody loves and enjoys. In this DVD, we explore innovative ways to build a classic step-back cabinet, media cabinet, wainscot paneling, turning a steel support post into a great feature of the room, cabinet doors, custom interior doors to match the rest of the woodworking in the room, and mortising and hinges so they're ready to hang. And finally, a great storage idea for a spare bedroom closet. Whether you're a professional who wants to do this kind of work all the time, or you're a homeowner who has a dream for a room in your house, join us now and discover how this is easier than you ever imagined.
We're filling this wall with storage cabinets. I call this type of cabinet a step-back cabinet, and that's because the base cabinet is a little bit deeper than the upper, and we're going to put some custom doors on the bottom so that what's stored down there won't be seen. But up here we're going to have open shelves where people can display things or put books. Now, the great thing about this cabinet is it's built exactly to fill this space. You just can't get that type of cabinetry from a home center. Also, we're using some moldings to really enhance the project. Now, each one of these cabinets is a little bit different because we have several conditions. This cabinet has to fit against the wall. These other cabinets have to join together, and we have this one piece of molding that's going to be dressing up the whole thing. It'll cover up this joint between the cabinets. We're going to use some other moldings to create a capital and a base around it. And then on the other end, the cabinet we're getting ready to build will have a face frame just the opposite of this, and it will have a finished end on it. So we're just going to take a look at all the different little details that we have to do to make one big unit that all comes together, and then we'll take a look at all the great moldings that take this from being a great cabinet to an incredibly beautiful piece of furniture. I'm going to build the face frame for my cabinet first. Now, the face frame that I'm making is an exact mirror image of this face frame. It's going to have a wide stile on the left-hand side, and we'll actually have a finished end where our plywood is going to match up exactly with the edge. All these other cabinets, the plywood could sit back inside, so we didn't really have to worry about dealing with a finished end. But what we're going to do is use some of our small pocket screws and make a joint that will just suck together. It'll be as if it grew that way. But first I'm going to put this face frame together. I like to use the 1.5" screws because they pull the joint together just a little bit more power. Okay, now this is a little bit narrower because it's going to combine with a style like this to make a 6-inch. If I was building this cabinet to stand alone, one of the things I'd kind of have to decide is just how much trim I wanted to put on it. I have built cabinets like this before where we had a 6-inch style and just had a really massive trim detail. Then I've also built them where we used a narrower style, and there's actually a trick that you can do where you can route a trim detail into the style of it if you don't want quite as heavy of a trim detail. Okay, that finishes up the face frame for the upper cabinet. Now, as you can see, it doesn't have a rail at the bottom, and the reason we do that is we want to have this uninterrupted counter space when we put the wooden top on. Okay, we're finished with this face frame. Now let's start on the one for the base cabinet. One of the things I've learned over the years is when you're building cabinets that are multiples like this, it's a good idea to machine all your pieces at one time. And it's especially important to have a saw that has an accurate stop system so that you can set that stop and cut all the pieces that need to be the same length at one time. That goes a long way towards ensuring that your frames are going to be accurate and square. Now I'm going to put this last screw in, we'll be through the face frames, and I'll be ready to start building the cabinet boxes. This piece of plywood is to make one side of the base cabinet. I'll be doing basically the same steps to it that I would do to the side of the upper cabinet. First, I'm going to cut it to length. Next, I'm going to put a dado in the bottom to make the joint where the plywood bottom meets the sides. So what I'm going to do is just mark 7 inches real quick, both edges. And then put this straight edge guide right on those marks. Clamp it real quick. And I'm ready to make a dado. My next step is to put a rebate in the back edge of these pieces of plywood to accept the plywood back. And because I need a left and a right, I always like to try and keep it foolproof to make sure I don't make a mistake and waste some material. I'm just going to put an X on these 2 edges that are together. When I've got the pieces together, then I'll just take this piece and turn it around, clamp it in place, rebate the edge. Now I'm going to put some pocket screw holes in the side and in the top, and that's for attaching the face frame and the finished wooden top. Because one side of this cabinet butts up against another cabinet, I'm going to put my pocket screw holes for attaching the face frame and the top on the outside of the box. But the other end's a finished end, so it's really important that I put those pocket screw holes inside the box. And just to keep it simple, make sure I don't screw up, I've already put a little X on the edge that I want to be drilling my pocket screw holes in. Okay, I cut my piece of plywood to length. We put the dado in down here to receive the bottom. We rebated the edge for the plywood back, and we drilled our pocket screw holes to attach the face frame and the top. Now we're going to finish up by drilling our holes for our adjustable shelves. I always want to put adjustable shelves in every cabinet that I do. For one thing, if I've got a good jig, it's actually faster than putting a fixed shelf in, and it just makes the shelf way more user-friendly in the end. So if I get a chance, I'm always going to put adjustable shelves in. Here's the jig that I'm going to use, and it just indexes off the outside edge of my plywood. I'm just going to gauge down from the top to where that is one of the most important things about using any jig when you're drilling adjustable shelf pin holes, is make sure that you get the same setting for both of them. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this pin in just to make sure that I don't have to worry now about the jig moving. And one of the things I really like about this particular system is I'm not using one of those bits that's spring-loaded that the chips hang up in. The guide is actually this drill bearing, this bushing, so I don't have to worry about that bit clogging up. I can just drill my holes. Okay, I'm going to move my jig around to this side, space it down again. Right there. Drill my first hole. Put that pin in. Now, if I was going to drill a whole lot more holes, I could move down and drill the next section just by placing this pin in the last hole that I drilled. Okay. That gives me my adjustable shelf pin holes in this side. Now let's drill the other side of the cabinet. This is the left-hand side of the cabinet, and it's the one that's going to be a finished end. So I've had to put these pocket screw holes to the inside of the cabinet. I don't really worry about whether or not one of these holes happens to hit there, but if that's a concern for you, you probably want to go ahead and drill these adjustable shelf pin holes first and then go drill your pocket screws to hold the face frame on. But again, not a concern for me. Okay, got this side totally drilled. Now, some people don't like the look of all the holes. The way I learned is that you went ahead and drilled all the holes. People have the most options possible. But you could just use one of these jigs instead of two of them and just locate the places where you were pretty certain a shelf was going to go. Now, the trick you got to remember about that is it's even more important the more times you're setting a different jig up, location up, to gauge where that jig goes. In other words, if you just try and drill a few holes here and then a few holes here, it gives you more chances to get things out of alignment. It's probably another reason why I like to go ahead and just drill all the holes continuously. Now that all the machining steps are done on this piece of plywood, I'm just going to really lightly sand over it just to knock any rough spots off. And also it's possible that, you know, the base of the router or something that we've done might have made just a little bit of a indentation in the wood to where it wouldn't stain uniformly. So I'm just going to hit it real lightly with this sander. All right, now let's put the box together. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this material, don't forget to like and subscribe.